So why it was important to explain the black box issue, I'd say, in an underground mine is that it's what really impedes us being able to have a successful short interval control concept. So we think back to the rudder analogy and the ship analogy sailing to Hawaii. The more often we can reset, analyze what we do based on good data, reset our rudder and get back on course, the more effective, the safer, the more effective, the more productive the shift will be. So here's a really good graphic, a really basic graphic of what the SIC process is. So if we just look at the outside circle, this is based on 3 8-hour shifts in a 24-hour period. So the circle represents a 24-hour period in an operation. And we see shift handovers occur in some operations every 8 hours. Me personally being more used to 12-hour arrangement, but in this example, we show 8-hour shift handovers. So the shift, mines work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, majority of them, and we keep doing shift handovers non-stop. Now, traditionally, what was done before, the advent of short interval control processes that are more prevalent in the industry now is that we'd start the shift and we'd issue the jobs and again hope for the best, and then you've got a frontline supervisor, which is a very very challenging job in an underground mine. Will go around and check on his people, and what I've always seen over the years is that that supervisor was being the short interval control as well, and they still do a lot of them to an extent, but you imagine there was just the one supervisor trying to coordinate. I always used to call it the pieces on the chessboard, and he's trying to move those pieces around as things happen. The issue with that, it was only one person doing that job, and one person with occasionally like an analog radio. Some places I were at didn't have an analog radio, so he's driving around as he stops in. He realizes that a key piece of machine's been down for 2 hours and that operator didn't have communications, and he found out 2 hours later that that job had stalled, and what he planned to say blast in that 24 hours and what he was planning to produce you know didn't happen. So and then usually you try to get that back on track as a supervisor, and try to do what you can throughout the shift, but 2 hours later at that time it's too late. So you know what shows here is that when we look at lifting that lid and digitizing and getting real-time information, we can make those decisions quicker, and when that happens, and that's what the SIC boxes there do. They show throughout the shift we're continually doing a short interval control process. So we're continually assessing where we plan to be in a shift, where are we, what's the delta, and then what do we have to do to get back on track. So SIC is not as much of it's a process, but it's more of a mindset that has to be adapted. It has to be a collective agreement that as we see variance, we realize what's important, what went wrong, and what has to be done. How do we move these pieces around the chessboard to get back to where we need to be? And then usually this shows the cycle to a 24-hour review, and usually that review goes up to a weekly strategic a meeting or a weekly review meeting, and then that helps feed into like a subsequent mine plan.